Okay, so we will cover up the both physics2d.raycast function, which will shoot out ray where from we want to shoot out, and the other one is prefab. I will have basically I'm gonna put time stamps in description. You can go ahead and check them out if you want to skip to the specific part. Okay, if you want, you can do that. So let's jump right into the coding part and in Unity. Okay, as you can see, we have over here our player. If I hit this play button, you're gonna able to see it will just round left and right. Okay, so let's hit this play button in the top. We will cover up the laser. I will have link in the description. You can go ahead if you want to jump in the specific one. Okay, so as you can see, we can run. Okay, so let's make the shooting one. Okay, so firstly we will tackle laser one. Okay, and the later on we will cover up the prefab one. Okay, so double click of your script. You can create a separate script by going through project first. Okay, right click on assets, then create and choose a script, name it that to something like player shoot or something like that. Okay, and I'm gonna go with this player movement script. So double click that to open up in Visual Studio. Okay, to open up in Visual Studio, so I'm gonna go over to bottom. In the bottom I will go and I will create a function. Okay, shooting function. So I'm gonna make it public. So why I'm just making it public, so I can call that function from another class or through button as well. So that is the reason of making it public. Okay, if you do want to call through button. Okay, for function we have to type void and let's call this shoot. Okay, and make some first bracket and some curly brackets. So what we want to do inside of this function, okay, we want to shoot out a laser from a shoot point. Okay, so we need to define those point first, from where we want to shoot out and the distance of that ray. Okay, so we need to define those before we shoot to enemy or any game object. Okay, so let's go move over to Unity and right click on player game object. Okay, and create an empty child game object and name it to something like, I'm gonna call it shoot point. Okay, shoot point, and then go select this move tool. Okay, and select this shoot point. I'm gonna move it over top of the gun. Okay, we will shoot out the ray from that point, and you can select an icon for it. Go over to inspector in the right and select an icon for it. I'm gonna select the white yellow one. Okay, so let's open up. So we want to shoot out the ray from this point. Okay, so let's move to script one more time, and for shooting we will use this function. Okay, it's called physics2d dot raycast. Okay, raycast and make brackets. So as a first argument it will take the position from where we want to shoot out. So we will shoot out from here. Okay, from here. So so let's define those variables first. Okay, so firstly it will take the point from where we want to shoot up, and the second thing it will take the direction as you can see, and the third argument it will take the length of the ray. Okay, and the fourth argument it will take the layer mask. Okay, layer mask basically which layer you want to target or which game object you want to target. As in my case, or as in our case, we want to shoot out enemy, we want to damage enemy, so we will select enemy layer. I will teach you how you can do it. So let's define those. So make it double slash to make it comment. Okay, let's go to top of the class and let's define those variables. Firstly we need this transform point, basically this for shoot point. So we need this shoot point so we can shoot out the ray from that point. Okay, so let's create an empty field of that point. So public, make it public, so we will see over here underneath our player movement script. Okay, So that transform, we know transform is responsible for position. If I move to Unity, as you can see, transform has position, rotation and scale. Okay, so transform is responsible for position, rotation and scale. So that is the reason we need the transform. Okay, means the position, and we also have to name it. So we name it shoot point. Okay, so we will name it as it over here. Okay, as we did over there. So we will call it something like shoot point. Okay, sorry, screen goes black out. Okay, so public transform shoot point. And the second thing we need, okay, and the second thing we need the length of the ray. Okay, length of the ray, how much it should be. Okay, so let's go to so let's make another field. Okay, we also gonna make it public, and that will be float. Okay, float, and let's call it something like distance or ray length, whatever you can say, it's up to you. Okay, so I'm gonna call it distance. Okay, distance, and by default you can set any value you like. So I'm gonna set to something like 10f or 10 units. Okay, and so this will be the length of the ray or the laser. Okay, we will shoot out. And the third argument, it will take the direction. Okay, we will shoot out in the in which direction the shoot point is facing. So in our case, in which direction we will shoot. So in this case, as you can see, the shoot point is facing to the right direction. Okay, so we will shoot out right. And if the sorry, screen just going out black, I'm really sorry for that. Okay, and if the player just flips, so shoot point also gonna flip. So also we will shoot out from that point in the direction of shoot point is facing. I hope you get the idea. Okay, and the third and the fourth argument, it will take the layer mask. We know which layer we want to target. Okay, so basically which layer we want to target. In our case, we want to destroy enemy or gonna damage enemy or something like that, or any the other game object. Okay, any other game object. So what we will do, so let's go to over here, and let's also make this public so we can set through inspector. That will be layer mask. Okay, layer masks. So in our case, I'm gonna test with some objects. You can do with enemy layers and anything you can. Okay, it's up to you. So let's I'm gonna do something like, I'm gonna name it target layer. Okay, target layer, and close that off with semicolon. Control S to save your code, and let's move to Unity. Okay, let's move to Unity, and we are gonna able to see those field will come up or pop up underneath our player movement script. Okay, player movement script. So just wait for a minute, and we are ready to go. Okay, ready to go with. So it will take a few moments, and we are done. We need to firstly set up those variables, and after it we can shoot out the ray from that point. Okay, so just wait for to compile and see what's happening. Okay, so just wait for to compile, and it's compiled. Okay, so as you can see, shoot point is empty. It says none, which is empty. So what we will do, we will select the shoot point and gonna drag it out there. Now we have the shoot point. Okay, from where we want to shoot, and as you can see, distance means the length of the ray. Okay, you can adjust it over here. So that is the reason of making it public. Okay, and as you can see, target layer, it says nothing. So which layer we want to target, it's up to you. You can do with any layer you want, something like objects layer, destructibles layer, or enemy layers, something like that. So in my case, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to hierarchy, right click, 2D objects, sprite, and I'm gonna select this square, and I'm gonna attach a box collider 2D. Okay, make sure you adding collider to that game object in which game object you just wanna test with. Okay, so in my case, I'm gonna test with this square. I'm gonna name this square to test. Okay, test, and make sure you add collider to that game object, or the collision will not be detected. Okay, so that is the reason. So I'm gonna click on add component, and by typing I'm gonna find box collider 2D, and let's attach that. Okay, I'm gonna move it down over here. To assign this game object as a layer mask or test layer or any layer in which layer you want to basically target. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna assign this test game object as a test layer. To do so, you need to go over to inspector. In the right, you can see layer with selected default. So click on that and click on add layer. Okay, and name the layer. So in my case, I'm gonna do test, so I'm gonna name it test. Okay, test, and hit enter to save it. Let's go back to that game object which is test. Okay, and and go inspector one more time, and as you can see layer which selected default. So what we will choose, we will choose test, which we recently name it. Okay, so select that name which is test. Okay, now we assigned this test game object as a test layer, as you can see. Okay, as you can see, we assigned this game object as a test layer. So let's go back to player game object one more time, and as you can see target layer which selected nothing, so we are not targeting any layer or not gonna damage any layer when we try to shoot. Okay, so in target layer, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select that, and I'm gonna select this test game object or test layer. So so the ray will only detect a test layer. Okay, so it's up to you, you can choose multiple layers. Okay, firstly you need to assign them, and after it you can do this thing. Okay, make sure it, and make sure you added box collider as well to those game object which you want to target or damage. Okay, make sure it. So I'm gonna do test. So what I'm gonna do, so let's open up our script one more time. We assign it all of the things. Firstly shoot point, we target the point out there, and the distance as you can see which is 10, and you can adjust the distance, it's up to you. Okay, so let's open up by double clicking on it. Let's open that up. So let's go to shoot function. So let's remove these two slashes. So we will use this physics 2d dot raycast function, and we know this function as a first argument it will take the position from where we want to shoot up. Okay, so we will pass shoot point, we assign it. Okay, we drag it out there, we know, definitely know. So we will pass shoot point dot position, and the second thing it will take the direction. So what we will pass, we will pass transform dot right. Transform basically referencing itself. So we attach our player movement script to player game object. So the transform, so if I pass over there transform dot right. Okay, transform dot right, basically this transform means over here this transform. Okay, this transform, and dot right means in whatever direction player is facing. Okay, in that direction. Okay, in that direction, it means transform dot right basically means whichever player is facing that direction. Okay, so we will shoot out the ray in this direction, whatever direction the player is facing. And third argument it will take the distance, means the length of the ray. So as we can see, we assign it the distance 10 unit by default. So I'm gonna pass as a third argument the distance, means the ray length. Okay, so I will pass distance and comma, and fourth argument it will take the layer mask. As we know, we have chosen. Okay, we have chosen our text layer. Okay, we have chosen our text layer. So we will pass target layer, and we know as a target layer, if I move to Unity, as you can see we selected test game object. So this ray will only gonna just detect the test game object, not any other else things. Okay, so test target layer, and close that off with semicolon. Okay, so this function over here, it can be true or false. If the ray is really colliding with that test game object, then this function will give us a true value, else this will give us false. Okay, so what we will do, we will store the result. Okay, we will store the result, whatever we get, we're gonna store it into a collider variable. Okay, so let's type over there collider 2D, and let's call it anything you can say. I'm gonna call it something like hit equal to this, or you can say hit info. Sorry, this is not the thing. Actually, we have to type physics 2D, Raycast hit 2D. Okay, we have to store it in a Raycast hit 2D. Basically, we know this is a ray, so that is the reason we need to store the result in a Raycast hit 2D. Make sure it. Okay, and we also have to name it, so let's call it hit or hit info. So this hit over here, it can be true or false. If the ray is really colliding with that test game object as we assign it as a target layer, so this hit will be true, else this hit will be false. Okay, so what we will do, and in the next line we will check if hit. Okay, if hit is equals to true, or you can leave as it is, sorry, as it is, and make some curly brackets. It also means true, means the ray is really collided with that game object, means the test game object. Okay, really collided with. So what we want to do, we want to damage it, we want to destroy it. It's up to you what you want. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna really check if it's really working or not. I'm gonna see, I'm gonna debug that. So to see a message in the console, what we have to type, we have to type debug. Okay, dot log, in brackets. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna check which game object the ray is really collided with. Okay, so firstly we will go over to hit. Okay, by this hit we can extract info about the game object, then something like name, tag, anything we like. So in my case, I'm gonna print out the name of the game object. Okay, so I will pass hit dot transform dot name. Okay, and close that off with semicolon. Control S to save your code. But the thing is that we made the function, we never calling it. So whatever I wrote written in between this function, okay, it will not be execute. So we also need to call the function. Okay, and what this function will do, as you can see, it will firstly check, it will create the ray from this shoot point position in the direction of player facing. Okay, with this much of length of the ray and this target layer. Okay, and if that ray is really collided with that test game object as we assign it as a target layer. Okay, so this hit will be true, and if hit is true, basically means that ray is really colliding with the test game object as we assign it. Okay, so this message will gonna pop out in the console. So let's call this function. So when we shoot the call, you can check with anything. I'm gonna check when I try to press left mouse button. Okay, I'm gonna call this function, and what this function will do, this function will do, as you can see, it will do this thing. So sorry, control X for cut and control V for paste. Okay, so I'm gonna go over to update function, and we know update function calls every single frame. So we will do that over here, and we will check. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go top of our update function, and we will check if, okay, if input dot get mouse button down. Okay, and in brackets you can pass 0. 0 basically means the left mouse button, and 1 basically means the right mouse button. So I'm gonna check for left mouse button, so that's why I have to pass 0 right there. Okay, right there, and make some curly brackets. So when I try to left mouse button, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call this function shoot function, and we know what shoot function is doing. Okay, so let's call this shoot function. Okay, shoot function, we have to name the function and make some brackets, close that off with semicolon, control S to save your code, and let's move to Unity. Okay, let's move to Unity, and when we try to press a left mouse button, the ray will be shoot out from that shoot point. Okay, as we assign it, as you can see over here should point, we drag it the reference out there and the length of the ray, and we also assign it the target layer. And you can select multiple layers if you want to damage any other things, okay, in your game. It's up to you. I just testing for test, okay. uh, so select the console. If you can if you can find the console, you need to go over to window in the top, okay, window in the top, then go over to general, okay, you can find over there. So I'm gonna select this console, okay, and hit this play button to play your game, and let's see what's gonna happen, okay. So I'm gonna try to click left mouse button, so that we calling that shoot function, and we know what shoot function is doing, okay. So let's check that out. So as you can see in the console, if I clear the console in the bottom, you can see when I try to click on left mouse button, the test printing out in the console the name of the game object, as you can see over here. If I move to coding part, as you can see, we're just printing out. Firstly we going to hit, then going to that game object transform component, and by that transform we accessing the name. So in our case this test game object. But the thing is that we're not able to see our ray, okay. As you can see, if I try to click left mouse button, we're not able to see our ray. So what we will do, I'm gonna unplay this, okay. To see the ray, we will add up line renderer. To add that up, so what you have to do, I'm gonna go to, so select the player game object first, okay, and click on add component, and find over there by typing line renderer, okay, a line renderer, and this is our line. And scroll bottom, over here in the bottom you can see material which says none material. So what we will do, click on that slot, and we need to choose default material, okay, to see the thing. So we will choose default, sorry, you can find over here, I guess I'm gonna find default, okay, default material. And let's go to over here position, scroll top, and increase this point, sorry. So as you can see, I'm gonna choose a different color, okay. So I'm going over to color fill, and let's choose a different color. So select over here and click on this color. I'm gonna choose this white, and mode to, I'm gonna select fixed, okay. Also I'm gonna select this one, that the left one, and gonna choose red color as well for that, okay. So as you can see, now we are able to see. So what I'm gonna do, so let's move to width, as you can see, and let's bring it down. So the ray will be stretched out, stretch in, as you can see. So the ray will be like this, okay. We want to width of the ray this much, okay. It's fine and good, okay. So I guess it's fine. So let's set that up to 0. So when we try to click left mouse button, then we want to show this ray, okay. We want to show that up, so we need to set the position of this ray, okay. So I'm gonna set this back to 0, okay, 0. And by default I'm gonna uncheck, okay. Basically if I select this ray, I'm gonna move this, sorry. So as you can see, we are able to see the ray, and I'm gonna disable. As you can see, I am just disabling, okay. So by default I'm gonna disable this, okay. So we need to get the reference of this line renderer, then we can set that up, and we can set it to true like this, okay, or false. So firstly we need a reference of this. So let's open up our script one more time by double clicking on it, okay. Double clicking on it, and let's go to top of our class, okay. And over there let's make a empty field of line renderer, because we need the reference of that line renderer, okay. And after it we can set the value and the position of the line renderer where we want to, okay. So let's make a public, sorry, public line renderer, let's call it lr, okay, and close that. Okay, so line renderer, control S to save your code and move to Unity. Okay, so control S to save your code and let's move to Unity. You're gonna able to see an empty field of line renderer will appear underneath of our player movement strip. Okay, so what we need to drag this line renderer. Okay, drag this line renderer up there. Okay, so we will have the reference and then we can set the value where we want to set that up. Basically we want to set that up from our shoot point position. Okay, shoot point position. From that point we just want to shoot out the ray or want to show that red line or the right line renderer. Firstly we need to set that active, basically enabled. We set that false, as you can see. Okay, so we need to set this active. But firstly what we will do, so as you can see LR, okay, line renderer, it says none, basically empty. So what we need to select this line renderer and drag up there. Now we have the reference of the line renderer. Let's open up our script one more time by double clicking on it. Okay, sorry, double clicking on it and let's go to bottom. Okay, over here as you can see we shooting. Okay, we just printing out the name of the game object that line renderer has collided with. Okay, so what we want to do, we also want to set that line renderer, okay, to be enabled. Okay, firstly instead of what we will do, okay, firstly let's set that we will do over here. I guess we will set that up. Okay, so let's go to down over here, alert. Okay, alert dot set position. Okay, set position. So firstly it will take the index, so we will start from the 0. Okay, 0 comma, and we will pass our shoot point position. Okay, as a position. Okay, as a position, so we will pass shoot point shoot, sorry, this will be shoot. Okay, shoot point dot position. Okay, and close that off with semicolon. And when we hit, okay, as you can see, when we hit, we're just printing out the name of the game object. Okay, so what we want to do, we also want to show that ray, that ray just collided with that game object, which we assign it as a target layer. Okay, so we also want to show that ray from ray, basically the red line we set the line renderer. Okay, I hope you get the idea. So so we will set the position. So lr we have to type and dot set position. Okay, set position, and as a first position we pass, as you can see, shoot point position. So that will be the first position, and the so we will pass one. One basically means 1 comma 1 basically means shoot point position, means the first point. From that point we will shoot out the ray. Okay, from where we shoot out, we're gonna end the ray when the game object, or sorry, or the ray collided with that game object. Let's suppose this is game object. So if the ray collided over here, so up over here, so this much of distance we will show that ray, basically the line renderer. I hope you get the idea. So as a second argument we will pass hit. Okay, hit dot point means the ray, or we just setting up the ray wherever it's collided with. Okay, so hit dot points means that ray just collided with that game object, and from that point we just setting that line renderer. Okay, so close that off with semicolon. But as you can see, if I move to Unity, okay, Unity, as you can see, line renderer is disabled. Okay, we also need to set that active. When we shoot, when we try to click left mouse button, then in that amount of time we just wanna be just wanna show our that ray, and after it 0.1 second or some second we just wanna disable that ray. We're not gonna show always all the time that ray again and again, so that will be laggy or something like that. So what we will do, instead of using this void void should, we will use I enumerator. Basically, what does that mean? It's basically delays a line of code. Okay, it just delays line of code. So we will remove this public void. Okay, and we will use this I enumerator. Okay, I enumerator. Basically what this over here does, and make sure you included the namespace using system.collection as okay, uh, uh, and basically you need to include that namespace else you not gonna able to use that I enumerator function. Okay, it's little bit weird, but it just delays a line of code. Okay, if you want to do some specific things after some amount of time, so you gonna use this I enumerator also invoke. We gonna talk about it future tutorials. Okay, so let's talk about I enumerator. So let's go to bottom one more time. Okay, so I enumerator. So after, firstly what we will do, when we try to click left mouse button, as you can see input dot get mouse button down 0 means the we just pressing clicking the left mouse button, we calling this shoot function. Okay, shoot function, so we just calling this shoot function. So firstly what we will do, by default we disabled it, so what we will do, we will enable it. Okay, something like this, we will enable this one. Okay, so what we will do over here, so we will go to lr dot enable, we will set it to true. Basically we just enabling. Okay, and close that off with semicolon. So we just enabling it like this. Okay, and after some amount of time we also need to set that active to be false, we need to set that to be disabled when we are not clicking the left mouse button. I hope you get the idea. So I'm gonna disable that. So let's go to script one more time, and doing all of these things, after doing all of these things, what we will do, we will wait a yell return. We have to type yell return. Okay, null. Okay, yield return null, and close that off with semicolon. And after it we will set lr, sorry, lr, just I'm gonna explain it, what does it mean. Okay, enable equal false. Okay, and close that off with semicolon. So what we doing over here, firstly we just shooting out the ray from that point, and we shooting out the ray, and we just enabling that red line, or as you can see lr dot enable equal to true means we just enabling that. Okay, and we setting that up, and yell return null basically means we waiting one frame. Okay, we know 60 frames in 1 second unity runs. Okay, basically like 50 images one by one. If you swipe up them so fast, it will seems like movie as you seen in Tom and Jerry cartoons and lots of other, I guess. Okay, you have seen. So we just waiting for yield return null. Basically we just waiting one frame, and after it we setting that red line or lr dot enable to be false. Okay, we setting that to be false. We just waiting one frame, and after that we setting false. But the problem is, to call this I enumerator function, we have to use start coroutine. Okay, it's little bit weird, but we have to use that for I enumerator function if you want to delay some line of code. Okay, so what we will do, we will fit this function shoot function into start coroutine. So just write after me and you gonna get hang of it. Okay, so we have to type start coroutine, and let's feed this shoot. Okay, feed this shoot into this start coroutine. Okay, make sure you doing this, else it's not gonna work. Okay, control s to save your code, and let's move to unity, and you gonna able to see the red line. Okay, and you can adjust the distance or in inspector as well. We made that distance public parameter. Okay, so it's up to you how much you want that the length distance of the ray, it's up to you. Okay, so just wait for to compile, and it will take a few moments and we are done. Okay, so just wait for to compile, and now we are done. So just wait a little bit, Actually my PC is little bit slow, that's the reason it's just taking too much time. Okay, but it's anyway fine. So if I hit this play button in the top and try to click left mouse button, the red line will be enabled first. Okay, first when we try to click left mouse button, and after one frame it will be disabled. Okay, so if I try to click left mouse, as you can see, if I just goes, as you can see, okay, so as you can see, the red line just uh, restricting about that game object, because we pass hit dot point, means wherever the ray just collided with, in that amount of distance we just setting that line renderer to be active. Okay, but you can define that. Okay, so in other case, as you can see, when I just face toward left direction and try to click left mouse button, the ray is not just going in that direction. Okay, direction. So what we will do, so I'm gonna unplay this. Let's move to script one more time. Okay, let's move to script one more time, and let's go to down. Over here, as you can see, if hit is true, basically means the ray is really colliding with that test game object, or the game object we have chosen, we assign it as a target layer. But we know the ray will not always collide with that test game object. It's also gonna go through empty field or emptiness, you can say. In the left direction we have seen. Okay, in left direction we don't have anything else. So what we want to do, we also gonna want to show that red line or amount that of distance, means the ray length. Okay, so what we will do else, so we have to use this else condition. Else basically means the ray is not colliding with that test game object. Basically means we as a target layer we just assign it that test game object only. Okay, so in the left direction we don't have any objects, something like that, it's just empty. So in that direction we wanna show that red line or the line renderer or the ray, because the ray should be visible. So we will get a visual appearing if the player is really shooting or not. Okay, so what we will do in else condition, we will set the position. So the first alert dot set position we have to use. Okay, so we know as a first point we will pass that shoot point position. Okay, as you can see the index. Okay, so as a 1, so comma 1 basically means shoot point dot position, it's just referencing that point. Okay, and the next thing what we will do, so we don't have any a game object in that direction, or if we just goes way more than that test game object, we not gonna have any game object to detect. Okay, so it does not mean that we not gonna show our ray. Okay, so we need to show that up as well. To show that up, so firstly we will do what we will do, shoot point. Okay, shoot point, sorry, we will pass shoot point dot position, and we will add, okay, we will add shoot point. Okay, shoot point dot dot right. Shoot point dot right basically means shoot point in which shoot point direction facing, basically which wherever shoot point is facing that direction, it's means shoot point dot right. So if I just if the player gets flipped to the left direction, so the shoot point will also gonna flip to the left side. So the direction of that shoot point will be left in that situation. So shoot point dot right basically means whatever direction shoot point is facing, that direction. Okay, and we will multiply that direction with the length of the ray. Okay, so we will multiply this with distance. Okay, sorry, multiply distance. Okay, distance, and close that off with semicolon. Control S to save your code, and let's move to Unity. Okay, let's move to Unity. So if we click left, if the player just flips to the left direction, okay, and we try to click left mouse button, the ray will be visible, okay, in the left direction, and the length of the ray we define it as 10, as you can see over here, distance in player movement script, but you can adjust, it's up to you. So that is the reason of making it public, it's up to you. Now if I hit this play button, we don't have any game object in the left direction, we know. So the ray will be visible, the red line, we just setting it active. And what we're doing, firstly we just shoot point position one, basically me referencing the shoot point position, okay, and we adding that shoot point position means the this shoot point position, okay, this shoot point position, and we adding whatever direction this shoot point is facing, we just multiplying with 10, so it will be like this. If I flip to the left direction, sorry, so as you can see, the ray is going to the left direction, okay, and the amount of the, if I scroll like this, as you can see, the ray is 10 unit, as you can see. So you can adjust the ray in the distance over here, I'm gonna put 5, so as you can see it will be 5, okay. So as you can see, so I hope you get the idea how you can do with it. So if you want to damage this test game object, what you can do, I'm gonna unplay this. Let's open up the script one more time. So let's double click that to open up in Visual Studio, okay. So over here, so we just printing out the name of the game object. You can do anything you can, okay, it's up to you what you want to do. So I'm gonna destroy that game object. So to destroy it from the scene view, so we have to use this destroy function, we know, and in this bracket we have to pass the game object we want to destroy. So in our case, hit dot game object, sorry, dot transform dot game object, and close that off with semicolon. So what does this basically means, okay, so hit dot transform dot game object basically means whatever the ray has been collided with, if the ray collided with that test game object, so the transform over here means that test game object transform, and then we just accessing the whole game object, basically means the test game object, okay. You can assign target layer, it's up to you. You can assign multiple layers like enemies, bosses, it's up to you, okay. So we just destroying the whole game object, okay. So control S to save your code, and let's move to Unity and see the result, what's gonna happen, okay. So it will take a few moments and you are done. So we just destroying the game object right away. So you can do anything like showing a hit effect, or anything you can do, it's up to you, whatever you want, okay. You can damage it. I just tested for this test game object, you can do with any game object you want or anything like that, okay. So I'm gonna clear the console, let's play the game, and look at that, what's gonna happen. If I try to click left mouse button, the ray will be visible and this game object will destroy immediately, okay. So as you can see, it's just get destroyed immediately. So now we don't have any game object, as you can see, but the ray is still visible, the amount of this distance. Basically what we're doing, if we are not colliding, as you can see, else basically means the ray is not colliding with anything. So in that situation, we setting this line renderer, the red line, basically this red line, okay, we're setting this to enable, okay, enable. Firstly we just taking the position, means shoot point position, means this position, and that position, what we're doing, the direction of the shoot point is facing, basically means in this case right, okay. So we just multiplying that direction with this distance, okay, 10. So so this will be 10 unit. I hope you get the idea how it works. So the next thing, we have to cover up the prefabs, okay. We need to cover up the prefabs. I hope you get the general idea how it works and how you can shoot with lasers, it's up to you, okay. Let's open up our movement script, player movement, by double clicking on it. So instead of now red line showing the laser, instead of that we will do with prefab now. Okay, so what we will do over here, as you can see, we have the shoot function. Okay, so when if I go to up, as you can see, if I try to click left mouse button, we calling this shoot function, and we know what shoot function is doing. It's just showing the red line, and it also detecting the test game object, we destroying it after it. Okay, so let's make it comment. Basically making comment double slash, it just become comments. Okay, and in C sharp code, comments don't work, and it just for explanation. Okay, so this should function will not be called out now because we made it come in. Okay, so instead what we will do, we will create another function for different method of shooting. Okay, we already handle it, the laser one. Now we will shoot out we will deal with the prefab one. Okay, so what we will do, uh, we will go to bottom. Okay, and let's make it public so we can call through from anywhere. And for function we have to type void, let's call it fire. Okay, and first make first bracket and some curly brackets. Why I made fire instead of shoot? Because we already have shoot function name. So if I try to rename one more time the function shoot, it will give us an error. Okay, so that is the reason we just naming it different. And inside of this function we will make the prefab, or we're gonna instantiate that bullet. Basically it will take the time to reach out enemy or some any game object you want to destroy. Okay, and the laser one, it just goes right away. So in something like FPS game, instead they what they use lasers, okay, or raycast, it goes right away. Okay, but for prefabs it will take the time to go through in the air. Okay, so we will create the bullet, and I'm gonna show it how it works. Okay, so inside of this fire function, okay, firstly let's print out if it's really working or not. Let's print out debug.log. We have to type for printing out any message in the console. We know in quotation, let's call it fire. It's up to you. Close that off with semicolon. But we also need to call this function, so this message will be executed, else it will not be. So when we shoot, when we try to click left mouse button, we will call this function. So let's go to up over here. As you can see, when we try to click left mouse button, if input dot get mouse button down means we just clicking the left mouse button. So we what we will do, we will call this function. Let's go bottom fire, make first bracket and close that off with semicolon. And what fire function is doing, if we go to bottom, as you can see debug.log fire, we just printing out the message in the console says fire. Okay, so control S to save your code whatever you have done, and let's go to Unity. Okay, so when we try to click left mouse button, okay, left mouse button, that message will gonna pop out right away. So just wait for to compile and hit display button in the top, select console in the bottom, and try to click left mouse button. That message will be will pop out right away. Okay, and we also need to create that bullet game object to spawn or to shoot out from that shoot point. Okay, so just wait for to compile, and if I hit display button in the top, okay, hit display button in the top and try to click left mouse button, that message gonna pop out in the console says fire, but instead of a message we will show up the bullet. So wait for it. So I'm gonna clear the console little. As you can see, when I try to click left mouse button, that fire message just getting popped out in the console. So instead of printing out message, we will shoot out that bullet. Okay, so we need to create that bullet. To create that bullet, firstly go over to hierarchy, right click on it, then go to 2D object. Okay, sprites, you can select any of them like circle. I'm gonna select this square. Okay, let's rename this to play bullet. Okay, and if to focus on it, and let's scale in the Y, let's decrease it some amount, something like I'm gonna right click on that bullet and reset the transform. As you can see, I'm gonna choose a different color, so click on sprite renderer, go over to color fill. I'm gonna choose red. Okay, I'm gonna drag this, I'm gonna select this game object, F to focus on it, select the move tool. I'm gonna move it a little further away from the player, and let's select this bullet, let's make it the size in the Y, something like 0.2. Okay, and 0.5, I guess. Now it seems pretty seems like a bullet over here. Okay, as you can see, and you can add up anything. Like I'm gonna add rigid body 2D. Okay, so click on add component and find by typing rigid body 2D, and for that I'm gonna set this gravity scale to 0. So if I set this to gravity scale to 0, so it will not fall down due to gravity, so that is the reason. Let's make it 0, and collision detection to make it continuous, and add a box collider 2D. So click on add component one more time and find over there box collider 2D for collision detection. Okay, adding collider for collision detection only. uh, and you have to make it prefab. Prefab basically means copy of that game object. Okay, so if you delete from this scene view, you won't able to restore it. Okay, so you need to make prefab, means copy of that game object. To make it copy of that, select the bullet first and select this project tab and go over to asset, select the bullet and drag it out there. Okay, now it's turned blue, basically means prefab, means copy of this game object. Now if I select this bullet and try to delete from this scene view, okay, now it's gone from the scene view, but we can restore that because we already made it prefab basically means copy of that game object. Okay, so I'm gonna select that game object from the assets. Okay, and gonna drag it out in scene view. As you can see, it's default, by default we already have added rigid body and the box collider, as you can see. So that is the cool thing making it prefab. Let's delete it from this scene view now. So when we try to click left mouse button, we will spawn it from that shoot point, and we will add some velocity to that bullet, so it will go away from it will travel through air. Okay, so let's delete it from this scene view. Now when we try to click left mouse button, then we just wanna spawn that bullet. Okay, so let's open up our player script one more time uh, by double clicking on it. Okay, so go to bottom. So instead of printing out message, so leave it and underneath and after it printing out message, what we gonna do, we gonna spawn to spawn or to spawn, basically spawn, what we have to do, we have to use instantiate function. Okay, instantiate function, and instantiate function over here will take the game object, basically as a first argument it will take the game object you want to spawn. So in our case, we know we want to show that red bullet, as you seen we made it prefab, so we will pass as a first argument that thing, and the second thing, it will take the position. Okay, instantiate function will take the position. So we know we will shoot, if I go to Unity, as you can see we have the shoot point, so we will pass as a second argument the shoot point we made inside of player, basically made child. Okay, so we will pass this shoot point as a the second argument, and the third argument it will take the rotation. Okay, this rotation basically in if you want to rotate your bullet, you can. Okay, so let's make it comment for now, because we know we need those variables, we need the bullet, we need the shoot point. Okay, so let's go to top of our class. Okay, we have the shoot point, as you can see, public transform shoot point, and we know we drag it the shoot point to shoot point fill. Now basically we have the already have the reference of the shoot point, but we don't have the bullet. Okay, so let's make a field for it. So underneath shoot point we will do, so make it public so we can able to see over here in player movement script. Okay, that is a game object we know. That prefab bullet is whole a game object, so that is the reason we have to type the game object variable. Okay, let's call this, we also have to name it, let's call it bullet prefab. Okay, and close that up with semicolon. Control S to save your code. Let's move to Unity. So in player movement script, we're gonna able to see that field which says bullet prefab. Okay, and by default it will be empty. So what we need to drag that red bullet from that prefab folder to that field. Okay, so we will have the bullet, then we can instantiate or spawn whatever we want to do. Okay, I hope you get the idea. So just wait for to compile. Underneath shoot point gonna able to see, as you can see, bullet prefab which says none, which is basically empty, we don't have it. So let's select that bullet prefab from that assets. We drag it into that assets. Okay, so let's select from there and drag it into that bullet prefab field. Now as you can see, we have the bullet as well as we have the shoot point. Now we have both of them. Okay, so let's go to script one more time and go to bottom. So let's remove these two slashes. Okay, so as a first argument we will pass bullet. Okay, bullet prefab basically means we assign it or we drag it that red bullet to red bullet field. Basically this bullet prefab means that red bullet. And the second thing, we will pass shoot point. We have the reference, we do know. Okay, so let's pass shoot point dot position and the comma, and the third argument it will take the rotation. Okay, so what we will do for now, we will pass quaternion dot identity. Okay, quaternion dot identity, it basically means no rotation. Okay, it's no rotation. And close that up with semicolon. Control S to save your code, and let's move to Unity. It will take a few moments and we are done. So when we try to click left mouse button, firstly we just printing out the message, it says fire, and after it we instantiating, okay, that this bullet prefab at this point with no rotation, as you can see. Okay, so we also need to move our bullet. Okay, or it will just stay to this shoot point position. Okay, so I'm gonna explain it how it's gonna work. Okay, so let's go to Unity, and if I hit this play button and try to click left mouse button, okay, that red bullet will be spawned from that shoot point. Okay, shoot point. So sorry, so as you can see, that red bullet just popping out, but it's not moving. Okay, it's not moving, so we also need to move this bullet through the air. So we will add up some velocity to this bullet. Okay, so I'm gonna unplay this. So if I select this bullet prefab from that assets folder, as you can see, we added a rigid body field. Okay, which is responsible for gravity, velocity, and all of the things. So what we will do, we will access the rigid body of that bullet. Okay, whatever we have instantiated, we gonna access this rigid body, and then we will set the velocity of that bullet in the direction of player is facing. Okay, so let's I'm gonna explain. So let's go to script one more time, and over here, as you can see, we instantiating or spawning this bullet at this point with no rotation. So let's store this bullet into another game object. Okay, so let's put it into another game object. Let's call temp, basically means temporary, and set equal to this. Firstly we instantiating, okay, at this point, and what we doing, we instantiating this bullet at this point with no rotation, and after it we storing this bullet into this temp game object. Basically it's work like as a container, we just putting that whatever we have instantiated, we know we instantiated or spawn that red bullet, and we storing a red bullet this temp variable. Okay, temp variable. So now what we will do, we will it will work like as a bucket or container, you can say. So we will go over to temp now, we what in which we store the red bullet whatever we have instantiated. So we will go to that container, basically just going over to container or and we will get the component. We have to use get the component, and we will access the rigid body of that bullet. Okay, firstly we instantiate it, then we are storing that bullet into this temp. Oh, okay, it works like as a container, and then we just getting the component. Okay, we just going over to that container, and we're gonna access container basically means the bullet we instantiated. Basically we accessing that bullet, and and what we will do, we will access the rigid body of that bullet. Okay, so we will access the rigid body and make this brackets and dot velocity. Okay, velocity. Basically we what we doing, firstly we instantiating this red bullet. If I move to Unity, okay, so if I select this bullet, so we just accessing this rigid body, and we setting the velocity. We're gonna set equal to transform. Okay, transform dot right multiply by some unit. Let's multiply by 10f or 10 unit. So what does over here transform dot right means? We know we attach our, if I move to scene view, as you can see we added this player movement script to this player game object. So over here transform, okay, transform basically means this transform, this player transform. Okay, and dot right basically means in which direction player is facing. If the player is facing to the left direction, okay, so the velocity of that bullet, basically we setting we just accessing the rigid body of that bullet, and we setting the velocity of that bullet in the direction of player facing. So if the player faces to the left side, so the velocity over here of that bullet will be to the left side. Okay, transform dot right basically means whatever direction player is facing. Okay, and we multiplied that direction with 10 unit, as you can see. So it will go by 10 unit through the air. Okay, in whatever direction player is facing. Basically, okay, so you can make a variable for it. It's up to you what you want. So Control S to save your code, and let's go to Unity. Okay, so that bullet will be spawned from this shoot point. Okay, shoot point, and the velocity of that bullet will be the in the direction of player facing with 10 amount of unit. But you can make I guess variable, a public float variable, and you can adjust the value. It's up to you whatever you want. Okay, so if I hit this play button in the top and try to click left mouse button, that bullet will be spawned from that shoot point position, and it will go by 10 unit in the direction of player is facing. Okay, so now, so as you can see, bullet is just going, and it's just stuck over here because it's just restricting. So as you can see, the bullet just going and going with 10 amount of speed through the air, as you can see, but we never destroying it. Okay, we also need to destroy this bullet, or it will load up our hierarchy. At some point our game will be laggy because it will gonna hold too many bullets game object, and it will be messy. So what we will do, we will delete it that bullet after some time. Okay, something like 10 seconds, or if that bullet collide with something, you can destroy it. It's up to you. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go over to script one more time. So over here, as you can see, firstly we instantiating or spawning that bullet at this point with no rotation, and then we storing that bullet into this temp. Basically it's work like container, and container basically means that game object, that bullet game object, whatever we have instantiated or spawn it. Okay, and then we accessing that bullet velocity. Okay, and we setting the velocity in the direction of player is facing. So what we will do, after it we will use this destroy function. Okay, and we know destroy function as a first argument, it will take the game object you want to destroy. So in our case we want to destroy this temp. Okay, in which game object we store it, our red bullet. Okay, so we just destroying the whole container or the temp, you can say. And the second thing, you can specify the time. Okay, comma, so you can specify the time, something like 10 means 10 second, 5 minutes, 5 seconds, it's up to you. You can make a variable for it and make it public, so you can adjust through in the inspector. It's up to you. So I'm gonna put something like 5 if and close that off with semicolon, control S to save your code. Let's move to Unity. Okay, so after 5 seconds, that tame game object will be destroyed, basically the container, hold container. Firstly we instantiating that red bullet, and then we storing that red bullet to the tame, and then we deleting that tame after 5 seconds. Okay, so I hope you get the idea how it works, and you can do with any game object you want. So if I now hit this play button and try to click left mouse button, that bullet will be spawned from that shoot point position with the speed of 10. You can make a variable for a speed as well, it's up to you. And by that the hierarchy will be lot more cleaner. Okay, so as you can see, after 5 seconds this should be destroyed. Okay, so as you can see, after 5 seconds that game object gets destroyed. I hope you get the idea with lasers as well as prefab. Basically prefab, it will take a time to go through air, and laser other hand it just goes right away. So in FPS game, mainly their laser raycast use a lot of time, often time. Okay, I hope you get the idea, and I hope you also enjoyed this video and learned something. Okay, and lastly, thanks for watching this video. Bye bye.